what if we set the tone by speaking nicely and being empathetic to ourselves? I think it would change the outside behavior too.
There's so many things to be grateful for. I'm not going to let this whatever little situation affect my day because then it just continues to spiral too. If you mull on that and just perseverate, is that the word?
I don't know, but it's a good word.
Thank you. It just makes your whole day bad.
Good morning and happy Tuesday to the Turkey Tots.
Good morning and happy Tuesday. How are you doing, Kaylee?
I'm doing good. How's Texas?
Texas is good. I think the wind in the air has whipped up some allergies. So besides the fact that my eyes, I just want to gouge them out because they itch so bad. Besides that, Texas is great.
I'm sorry. I remember our whole childhood that you used to talk about your allergies, and I was like, Kayla's exaggerating. And then I moved out of my natural habitat and acquired allergies, and I was like, no, she was not.
Thank you for giving me credit.
But I'm sad now that you like acclimated to Wisconsin and then you returned to Texas without your allergy wards being built up.
Well, I feel like I had seasonal allergies more so in Wisconsin, but then cedar allergies is just a whole other world of allergenic pain that we didn't have in Wisconsin. So I think that's the problem.
I can see that. I think there's more pollen season in the South too. There's more time for it to be about. I mean, I literally just washed my car yesterday and it's black and there's just a yellow film across the top now.
Gross. I hate it.
But everything smells good and it's spring and it didn't snow. So that's what I'm trying to focus on. Okay. The death of my sinuses means life to the earth. Oh, man. This is actually a perfect brain exercise that we just demonstrated because today we're talking about 5/4 things we can do to be more empathetic / nice in our daily life. I thought this would be fun. This percolated in my head from a while back when I was trying to tell my younger brother tips on conversation having on a first date. And then it sort of in my brain grew out to maybe there's just things all of us can do to be less grumpy pants. And then it also feels very fitting because we just got done recapping our check-in for our New Year's intentions. So in the spirit of growth and springtime and being better people, here we go.
It's funny when I revisited this to kind of get my brain going. We had just talked about this randomly at my job. About how we can be more empathetic to customers. So it's very interesting. It kind of aligned. So I'm excited to hear your list.
I'm excited. Do you want me to start since you have 4 and I have 5?
Yes, please.
Okay. My first one, this is the one that started all of it off, was when you're talking to somebody and they say something that you don't agree with, in your brain, ask yourself, what if I'm wrong? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it was making sense in my head when I typed it. It works on so many levels. I seriously think it's a great idea. It's just like an empathy exercise in general. So you can do it if you're like listening to a podcast or if you find some reel on Instagram that is annoying. I don't know if it'll work with clickbait, but you can try it out. So I've made examples / scenarios that you can try. But if you just take that moment where they say whatever, and then you go, what if I'm wrong? Follow it all the way down the rabbit hole of what that would mean. I was trying to think of some examples, and I think you could do it with almost any controversial topic, except for maybe some especially heinous or actual horrible things. And then I put as an additional side quest to this adventure, you can try to find one thing that the person said that you do agree with.
Mm-hmm.
So once you go down your what if I'm wrong rabbit hole, and then you can come back to real life and then still try to find something that you agree with. Here's great ways you can do this. You can, again, find somebody's book that you don't like, find a podcast of somebody you think that you despise. I made some examples of for myself of things that would be challenging, but I think I could do it. I'm pretty sure I could read Bill O'Reilly's book and still find a few quotable things as takeaways. I think that I could probably read The Art of the Deal and take away some business insights that I don't know that I could probably use in my future of trying to make more money. And last but not least, despite how much it might pain me to admit, I think that there are even pieces of Nancy Pelosi's personal history that I could find inspiring if I sat down and listened to her tell her story. So, with that being said, you don't have to agree with everything that everyone says, but you can take what serves you and leave the rest. And then you won't be so outraged all the time.
I like that, and I totally agree. And even if it's even just within the conversation context, if you're not reading a book or deep diving into their history, even if you really, really still don't agree with the one statement that you're talking about or mulling over, if you were just to look at it from their perspective, maybe with their life experience, it's true for them. And if it's true for them and it's not true for you, at least you can try to walk away with mutual respect, because the respect piece is what's missing these days. And I feel like that's key to a thriving society. But I like that. And on the flip side, if you really, really love somebody, I don't know, the Joe Roganeers of today or somebody else, that doesn't also mean that you then agree with everything they say. You know, if I like Joe Rogan or if I like this person, that doesn't automatically put me in the box of everything he's ever said, I am 1000% on board of. Love it.
I think it's good too, and to make yourself, because I think we get a little too egocentric and self-centered about stuff sometimes. So it's good to make yourself think about you being wrong and kind of sit with that for a minute, because even that is a hard thing to do. But just like you said, like try doing that makes you imagine scenarios in which that is a normal way of thinking. I'm trying to think of a good example, and I can't think of one off the top of my head, but I guess even something that's foreign to me, like wearing a hair cover for women who practice Islam. Like, to me, that sounds really, what's it called? Controlling and boxed in. But what if I'm like, what if they're right? What if I'm wrong? And what if it's actually relieving to have to dress more modestly and not feel like people are looking at you, or to take so much pride in what you look like that you are saving that just for somebody that you want to be that vulnerable with. I'm taking this aside from situations where it's forced on people, but when people are practicing a faith and doing a faith practice that I think sounds goofy, it's some of that stuff is even interesting / helpful. And then I like to go on deep dives and listen to people talk. I've specifically listened to women talk about that, how they feel like being modest is more freeing than being tits out. And it doesn't mean that I'm going to go out and start wearing button ups, because I love my hoe for show outfits, but it's interesting and it's a good mental practice.
Oh my gosh. I like that one. So mine are kind of more broad in general, just like actually practicing patience, because I feel like I've always said this about my life. I need to work on being more patient. And motherhood aside has tested me quite a bit. But kind of bouncing off, this is the most relatable one. Instead of judging someone by what they look like or about what comes out of their mouth, if there's something crazy that spews out of their mouth in the first couple sentences that I don't agree with, like I just said, don't put me in a box just because I agree with one thing or I like one person. I should also not put them in a box and start judging them off of a couple things they say. And also, if people are rude, I always have to remember, okay, like what's happening in their life that's making them rude? This is not a reflection of me. This is something that's going on with them. Either mentally, they're just not mature enough, or they may be going through a really hard time. Like, what if someone's super, super rude to me and I get all defensive and I'm rude back, and then I find out like someone passed away this morning, or they just got in a huge car accident and they, like you don't know people's story. And until you find the time to discover what their story is, you really don't have the right to judge them. I'm very guilty of this. So I'm not like preaching to the choir or anything, or I am telling myself I should stop doing this, but it helps if I'm in the state to remember these things, to not jump so quickly to defense and annoyance, because they're probably dealing with something that's not even my problem. It's just coming out onto me.
Yeah. That leads perfectly to my one that I have written down, which is, this is going to be fun because, sorry, I went on a side adventure. I think you're probably going to end up doing things that are more general broad, and I think mine are going to end up being the actionable item of those topics.
Perfect.
So for that specifically, think of a scenario in which whatever the annoying behavior is would be non-annoying, and then just pretend that's the reason for whatever stupid thing the person is doing. I have some examples. Number one, if a person is driving slowly, just assume that they're old. They're old and they're nervous and they can barely see over the wheel. And how would you want to be treated when you're old and nervous and can't see over the wheel? Or how would you want your Nana to be treated? Next, person driving too fast. I don't know, maybe she's crowning and she's just trying to get to the hospital.
Oh my God. Stress.
Person taking forever to count out the exact change in pennies at the checkout. Maybe they're developmentally delayed. And I don't think that's the person that you would want to yell at in the checkout line, because if you found that detail out, you'd feel like a real piece of shit. Next, person walking slowly down the aisle and taking up the entire middle with themselves in the cart. Stroke history. Can't be mad at people if they just had a stroke. Next, and last but not least, when that person swerves into the parking space that you are going to take right in front of the door as it's raining, and now you have to go park at the back of the parking lot, just imagine that they get out and they don't have any legs. So it's fine. It's fine. You can walk and they can't. So just let them nub in without a lot of distance. And you might get a little wet, but it's fine. You don't need to ruin your day over it, or flip them off, or scream and curse, or flash your side piece at them.
It's so true.
I mean, I'm being facetious, but
I know.
I do that all the time. Like, someone will be speeding down the road and I'll get really annoyed, and then I'll be like, oh, maybe they just have to get somewhere. And even though I know that is probably not true and they are probably being a dick, I will have a better morning if I live in delusional fantasy land than if I continue to be mad at them, because they don't even give a fuck once they've passed me. They didn't care as they passed me. Like, my harbored irritation about the right and wrongs of road behavior are doing nothing to affect this person's day. I'm just ruining mine.
Exactly. It's all about how you are feeling. They don't care once they drive off.
I was just going to say, living in a state with a lot of retirees, I have a lot of opportunities to practice this, because I literally was in line at a grocery store behind a woman writing a check, and she wrote the wrong amount of change, and then she had to cross it off, and then she had to go in again, and then it was like, when she wrote the check, she wanted to also at the same time write it in the ledger. And I was sitting there wanting to die. And then I just thought, you know what? Someday I am going to have some outmoded version of technology, and I'm going to be retired after having worked for 500 years. And I won't want to get in a hurry. And I would be, if I were that old lady, thinking to the young person behind me that they can fuck right off because I've done my time hustling and now I'm going to go slow. So I just tried really hard to focus on that and my breathing so that I didn't glare at her as she hobbled out of the grocery store.
It's so true. It's funny that you bring up that scenario because I've been in that exact scenario. And at first I had the twinge, the twinge you get in your chest. You're like, oh my God, like fucking hurry up. And then I literally just looked at her writing. And the fact that this lady was so carefully writing out this check in her perfect cursive and taking her time like she had no other worries in the world, I was like, damn, I'm almost jealous because you are not, I don't want to say slow because you are slow, but you have slowed down and are not rushing around like a chicken with your head cut off like all of us are doing.
Yeah.
It was almost like, wow, I'm kind of envious right now that you're just carefree, not worrying about anyone behind you, writing your check really perfectly, like beautiful handwriting. And then after that, I was like, well, you write your check, lady. You got beautiful handwriting.
It's a lost art.
Whereas me, if I ever have, when I do have to write checks, which is rare these days, but when I have them, like, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. Or even if I can't like find, I'm in the drive-through and they like give me my card back and then they start giving me the food, or God forbid I pay cash and then I don't know what to do with like the change. And I'm like, just throw it on the side door real quick and I'll take my food because there's people behind me. I'm like, ah. It's so stressful.
I know.
Drive-throughs make me nervous.
That we all could just embody old lady, take your time energy.
Frick. I love it, man.
Just
anyway.
Strolling down the street, just glazing down the highway. Like, no, honestly, they have a lot of cares probably. It's just that their cares are, is my butthole going to keep working or am I going to get a UTI if I don't drink enough water and then go insane and be put on hospice because people think I have dementia all of a sudden? They have real life care, so they don't give a fuck if the lady behind her trying to buy beer and Vaseline wants to get through the checkout line faster.
So true. Okay, also to go off of what you said, even though we just went on a little side quest, as you call it, which I love. Still haven't finished Harry Potter, but anyway, I'm so close. A baby was born and then I just got distracted with life. Okay. I feel as though I'm practicing this. I'm trying to understand. This is a little woo-woo, but you know me, I like to ride that line. Understand that the universe is always flowing, and I personally believe things happen for a reason. I know some people don't hold that well, but that's kind of my motto for life, which helps me. For example, if you are stuck behind a slow truck, like you were saying, instead of them, having a stroke, which that could be, I try to tell myself, okay, I'm stuck on this one-way highway. I'm going to be at least 5 minutes late to work. What if this is stopping me from getting in a huge car accident a couple miles ahead? I have to remind myself that all the time. I'm like, it's purposely slowing me down. Something's happening in this moment that's pushing me back 5 minutes from my destination for a reason. It may not be a big, crazy, scary life or death situation reason, but it could be. And I have to remind myself, it's okay to be 5 minutes late. I'm not going to die. Let's just be patient.
That's a good one. I try to do that too sometimes if we're on a trip or I don't know.
Like if you miss your flight or you miss your bus or something happens and sometimes I'm like, oh my God. And then I start freaking myself out. I'm like, I hope I don't see a newspaper article. A newspaper article. Who am I? If I were to see an article online or a news thing on social media that said like plane went down that I was supposed to be on, I'm like, oh my God, well don't do that because there's other people on the plane. But you start just going down a rabbit hole of what would have happened?
Yeah, dude. No, that's definitely a good one. Just not kidding. A lot of this just is me taking a breath, but I think that what was I gonna say? A reason. Damn it.
I'm so sorry.
There's a thing there. It's not your fault. It just left the building. Maybe it happened for a reason. Okay. Next. This is an obvious thing, and it's normal couples therapy talk. But I think it's a good reminder for myself basically every day and everyone all the time is to stop planning what you're going to say next and listen to what the person is actually saying. And then bonus points if you rephrase it back to them to check for understanding before you start pummeling them with words.
Oh, that's a good one. Oh, there's 2 huge horse mosquitoes on my window mating.
Horse mosquitoes.
Have you ever seen those? I don't know if that's actually what they're called, but they're huge. They're huge mosquitoes.
Oh, we have something like that, but Jason calls them mosquito somethings.
Mosquito
and apparently
monsters?
they eat mosquitoes.
Yeah, I mean they're not actually mosquitoes. They look like huge lake flies like we had in Wisconsin.
Yeah, okay. These look like super mosquitoes, and apparently they eat mosquitoes. So we always try to catch them and put them back outside so that they can go eat more of the mosquitoes.
I love it. Sorry, so sidetracked you. But
That's
yes.
okay.
Well, now I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, yes, no, this is so good because I have to also practice this at work. And just in every relationship. But I'm actually really good at this with work because I'm actually trying to understand their motive and what they need so I can sell them on whatever that is.
Yeah, right.
So
right?
I rephrase it back to them and ask for confirmation. It's like a sales tactic. But honestly, it's like really good to understand people. And that's kind of what we were talking about in our meeting and like really like digging into the discovery and repeating things back and asking for clarification because there may be a huge underlying thing that I'm missing until I start trying to peel back the layers a little bit.
And then you end up having a conversation along 2 parallel lines that both people just get really aggravated by.
Yes, and you don't feel like you're understanding each other. And it's so frustrating. Yeah.
And there are times, even I think in a disagreement, that just the act of acknowledging what somebody says makes them feel heard enough that they'll lower their defenses to continue to have a discourse at a normal level instead of being in fight or flight mode.
1000%. I love that. Okay, this is also a great segue because my next one is count to 5, children. No, it really is like count to 5 or do some kind of, I know some people like tap their fingers, whatever your thing is to kind of get you out of the fight or flight, but count to 5 and remind yourself that other people's emotions shouldn't, they don't have weight or power to affect your emotions. We've talked about this. Someone can't really actually make me mad. I am getting triggered and then myself in turn am making myself mad. Even though everyone says, and I've been guilty of this all the time, like, you're making me mad, or you make me sad, or you're making me feel this, or blah, 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 blah. Honestly, no, that's not the case. I'm just triggered and I can't regulate my emotions, and then I start getting emotional. So it's one of those things where, unfortunately, you have to kind of look in the mirror and understand why this is so triggering. And realize they're having emotions that are real for them, and you're having some emotions, but you have to like you said, try to find the common path and understanding, or else the emotions are just gonna get you out of control, and you're never gonna be able to get on the same page.
Yeah, there's a good like apparently bilateral stimulation can help your brain calm down, so you can do it non-obviously when you're talking to somebody, tapping, but tap your feet opposite every other. Or I mean, they've done like crossing your arms across your chest and then tapping your shoulders, which you're not going to do in the middle of a conversation because it would be weird. But
Stop, I don't like this conversation.
yeah but you could do that if you were on the phone and you felt like you're getting really worked up, or even just tapping the sides of your thighs, alternating, or your fingers. The bilateral is supposed to be, I don't know if it's more calming. I don't know what the right words are for science, but it's a technique
like,
I learned in EMDR.
I was gonna say this reminds me of EMDR because I think it triggers the left and right side brain, and it kind of breaks up the current pattern of focusing on the stress or the emotion, and you kind of have to break out of it a little bit. As I tap like a dork.
Yeah,
and it feels nice. I feel calm.
Yeah, right. Anyway, no, that is a good one. I almost put that take a deep breath, but then I forgot. This is kind of a joke, but not really. But pretend that the person who's getting on your nerves is the only person that will be available to give your eulogy if you die tomorrow. So what is the impression that you would like for them to have as they go sit down and write?
Oh, that's funny. That's
And
good.
right, going back to my parking space example, I mean, do you want them to talk about how you were an asshole and you got out and like raised your fist at them, or talk about how you were so nice and kind and gave them the parking space and went and took that spot in the back of the lot?
I will always remember what Kenny has taught me over the years because he treats everyone equally. Not like I've never done it, but he's so nice to everyone. Like, you just don't know who people are. So this reminds me of, say you're at a gas station or at a grocery store and you're rude to someone. Say someone's being slow in front of you and you're rude to them. And then a couple days later, you walk into a business where you want to get a loan or you want to buy this or something, something, something. And that same person walks out and they're like, yeah, I'm the manager here. How can I help you? And then you're like, well, I just screwed that up. Now no chance I'm getting whatever I came in here for. It's just like, you don't know who people are and you don't know who people know. What is it? 5 degrees of separation between everyone.
Yeah.
So it's like, you got to be careful, dude. You got to just be nice to everyone because it's going to come back around and bite you in the ass, most likely.
That is a good way to look at it. It's a good way to keep yourself in check. When you started saying this, my dark brain immediately went to, you don't know who you're dealing with because they could be fucking insane. I think about this a lot with road rage situations, because this has been an argument before with Jason and I where he's gotten mad and like flipped somebody off in traffic. And I get it. I completely get the impulse. Part of me gets turned on a little bit when he gets kind of riled up and gets protective about stuff. So, I mean, I really am not even mad, but people are nuts, and it's Florida. So we all have firearms. And I, for sure, when I was at the probation office, I wasn't supervising him. My coworker was, but I went out to his house with my coworker as a partner. And, we were talking to this guy, blah, 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 had a crazy temper, diagnosed antisocial personality disorder. I mean, lots of fun things. And somebody that evening got into a road rage situation with him. He got out of his car at the red light and opened the door, yanked the guy out, and beat the living shit out of him at the red light.
Oh, God.
You just don't know. Some people are absolutely nuts and unhinged. We had another one that I think the guy got into an argument with a roommate at the girlfriend's house, and he left and came back and stabbed him in the neck.
Oh my God.
This is probably not going to add love and light to anyone's day if you think like this. But I mean, there's part of it is self-preservation too, especially when we're talking about strangers in public. And I know I just have a dark brain, but there have been times where I've glared at people or, been mouthy, and then I have to think to myself,
they're going to follow me home and kill me.
Yeah.
Dude, Kenny and I have had multiple conversations about how many murderers do you feel like we've interacted in our life? Just passing by, or maybe a quick conversation, or just like, hey, thanks for opening the door. Who are you all? How many murderers have we talked to? And we don't even know. It's so crazy.
This is such a side quest that we can talk about later, but I will give you one example. I think we all deal with violent people or are around them all the time, and we just don't know it. And mostly that person is just a person like you and I, except for this tiny little sliver of their life, which gets back to my original point of, you don't want to bring out that tiny little sliver by escalating a situation, because you don't know, because they present like every other human for all the other 98% of their day. But I'll never forget that I was supervising this dude that was a bank robber, and I don't know, bank robbers always seem to go back and rob banks when they get out, but he did the very thing within like 3 months. And there was a news story about it, and the lady at the bank was in line right in front of him before he did this. And they interviewed her, and she was like, he was standing in line behind me, and then I left, and then he robbed the bank. And I was like, bitch, I was at his house on Friday. Like, it was just so funny. Nothing happened. Nobody was hurt. And she just for the first time in her life realized that a weirdo was standing in line behind her. And I wanted to like, Betty, you have no idea the people who are cooking your food and cleaning your food and the bus boy at the restaurant that you went to and the guy that changed your oil. Like, there are creeps and weirdos. And maybe they're not. Maybe there's just people everywhere and they've done creepy and weird things. But that is so true. You just have no idea. And I think we all are around them all the time. You just, until you know where they work and live and you're around them, you don't pay attention. But also it demystifies for me the situation, because just like I said, they're mostly normal. And they're mostly just doing normal shit, going to Chick-fil-A, pooping on the toilet, going out to buy toilet paper, just living life. They're not walking around every day with I'm an axe murderer behaviors. But dude, you flip them off and tell them that their mom is like a fat piece of shit in traffic, and you go and learn.
Yeah. Super scary.
So for self-preservation, just pretend that that person is just in a really big hurry because he needs to go see his mom at the hospital, or his girlfriend just said that her water broke, and then no one has to get stabbed in the neck.
Do you have one more?
Oh, I have one more.
Perf.
And it is, be nice to yourself, because I feel as though we all have an easier time being nice to other people than we do to ourselves. So considering the fact that we spend most of our lives in communication with our own selves, unless you don't have an internal dialogue, and then I don't know what the fuck you're doing. But what if we set the tone by speaking nicely and being empathetic to ourselves? I think it would change the outside behavior too.
It's good practice to start with you, so then you can also show that to others.
I
love that.
Like, my legs are really pale right now, and I sat down and they were looking a little cottage cheesy, and I looked and I was like, yuck. And then I was like, Kaylee, we really need to reel this in, because if I'm going yuck to myself, I am fucking for sure having very nasty thoughts about other people that I see waddling down the road.
It's so true. I love that.
I'm starting with the man in the mirror.
My last one is also, well, not also, but it's be grateful. Because I feel like when you have a positive attitude or a positive outlook, it really changes your perspective, and you're able to see that getting slowed down a little bit at the grocery store, or dealing with a rude person that you don't know what's going on in their life, it is really not that big of a deal. Like, I still got my coffee. I'm still alive. I still got a roof over my head. Like, there's so many things to be grateful for. I'm not going to let this whatever little situation affect my day, because then it just continues to spiral too. If you mull on that and just perseverate, is that the word?
I don't know, but it's a good word.
Thank you. It just makes your whole day bad, and then you find the bad things and all the bad things, and then it just keeps tumbling down and snowballing. Whereas if you're just like, hey, I'm still good, let them go off, and I'm just going to go about my day because I've got too many other things to be grateful for.
This list lined up beautifully, as they usually do.
I love it.
All right. Well, everybody, go find a podcast of someone that you hate and go listen to the whole thing uninterrupted and uncut, and then challenge yourself to find 3 things that you agree with, and then try out What If I'm Wrong 3 times and see how it goes. It's good for you.
Challenge accepted.
And until next week, I love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.
Wee. Also, your light is on your mic.
You know what? I saw it and I was like,
do you
but
like
it's
it?
the purple and it kind of matches the mug. I
Okay.
literally, yep. So let's leave it
Okay.
today.
I think it looks cute. I just wanted to tell you in case you didn't know because of the cedar fever.